This is the world of Superman and Captain Marvel. Yet, gradually, even the superheroes are given up, and by the time of mid-adolescence, young people know that their individuals are confined to the boundaries of their flesh and the limits of their power, each one a relatively frail and impotent organism, existing only by the cooperation with a group of fellow organisms called society. Within this group, they are not particularly distinguished, yet they are isolated from others by their individual identities, boundaries, and limits. It is lonely behind these boundaries. Some people, particularly those whom psychiatrists call schizoids, because of unpleasant, traumatizing experiences in childhood, perceive the world outside themselves as unredeemable, dangerous, hostile, confusing, and unnurturing. Such people feel their boundaries to be protecting and comforting, and find sense of safety in their loneliness. But most of us feel our loneliness to be painful and yearn to escape from behind the walls of our individual identities to a condition in which we can be more unified with the world outside ourselves. The experience of falling in love allows us this escape temporarily. The essence of the phenomenon of falling in love is a sudden collapse of a section of our individual ego's boundaries, permitting one to merge his or her self-identity with that of another person. The sudden release of one's self from oneself, the explosive pouring out of oneself into the beloved, and the dramatic surcrease of loneliness, accompanying with a collapse of the ego boundaries is experienced by most of us as ecstatic. We and our beloved are one. Loneliness is no more. That's an excerpt from The Road Less Traveled. You are operating from the wrong energy center. I don't want a YouTube channel. I don't actually want a YouTube channel. I don't want to be in front of a computer or a camera. But I have to surrender to what I feel is coming to me. All my life experiences. Combining? Whatever. Combining. You know what I'm talking about. Into this message. This message that I am myself am struggling. Oh my goodness. Struggling to speak. Struggling to give this message. Struggling to make a YouTube channel to help you realize you're missing it. You're rushing and rushing, trying to do all these things in a day, and you're not tapping in to the sacred breath. Breath that we take for granted. And I'm not the only one that's saying this, right? I just did an interview, oh my goodness, interview with a friend. It was amazing. You can check it out on his channel. This is only going to have a small segment of what he shared in that interview, because what he shared in that interview was it, right? Like total mic drop of what he shared. And let's listen to it now.
Do you think has made, like you mentioned that you had some outer body experiences to me. Now, I've had quite a strong, I've had one outer body experience and it just completely rattled and shattered my worldview because it was in summer 2023. I had some experiences. I talked about this in my last video, how I came to believe in Source. I went from to being an atheist to a full-on believer because I had this very strong moment where I basically felt and heard the presence of God, of Source, and it was like a sudden reactivation of my conscience. Now, I'm not saying that my conscience, I never had a conscience, but I think for a long time I was not living authentically. I wasn't living like true to myself. And what does that mean other than like stamping down your conscience? You're kind of, my gut might tell me to do a certain thing, to go a certain way, or, say my truth or do whatever it is. And for years, I kind of just didn't, I went with whatever would be the easiest option. So I'm a very agreeable guy. I'm somewhat of an empath. So if someone in front of me was disrespecting me, I might just try smooth it over as best I can by not standing up for myself, let's say. And then my conscience told me to stand up for yourself in whatever little way. And I would just squash that voice down. So over time, it was like, yeah, that voice just got so disrespected to the fact it almost left me. And I just said, right, well, I'm not, if you're not going to listen to me, screw you, I'm off. And I don't know how long a process that was, maybe 10 years or something like that. But
Okay, that never goes away. I mean, he says that. He does acknowledge that in here. That little voice, that little something. I call it spirit, you might call it something else. That never goes away. It's just our responsibility to listen and pay attention. I think of, oh my goodness, because my husband tried to get me to play Ocarina of Time. And it makes me think of little Navi. Listen! Listen! And it's, I don't know, just that. I like to call it spirit. You might call it something else. But it's more than your, more than your own conscience. It has energy and knowledge and power of its own. So I like to call it spirit.
point being, in that summer, I let all of my bad habits catch up to me, and I got this sudden reactivation of my conscience and this connection with God. So I became a believer because I was really interested in Jungian theory of the integration of opposites. I had a lot to do with like shadow work, and it had a lot to do with like integrating my like repressed sexual side of me, and that's why this channel is called Eros and Logos, Erologos, because I wanted to kind of like integrate those two polarities into more of a, you know, union. And anyway, sorry if I'm going on a tangent here. I'm going to get to the OBE. So, yeah, that was a big part of my coming to believe in God. And then when it was only like a month or two, really, of being in this Christian framework, I was walking from room to room, just in this room over here, and I heard a voice, a woman's voice in my head, and I couldn't really make out who it was, but it knew my full name, and it said, "Sit down." It said, "Lie down on this floor at once." And I was like, "Okay, what the hell?" I heard it like like very as if someone said it to me in my ear. So I lay down on the floor. I did my yoga mat there ready, and I got this gut instinct to start going into breath work. So
and you're completely sober.
Completely sober. Thank you. I had
Yeah.
I had experienced years of smoking weed, so I shared this story to one or two people, and they were like, "Yeah, were you stoned?" I was like, "God damn it!"
No.
It's like boy who cried wolf, you know.
Right. Yeah,
um,
after what, 40 days, that's not going to be in your system anymore. So you're completely sober having this experience.
Thank you. Completely sober, and it was, yeah. Forgive me if I stutter trying to tell this because yeah, it's bringing up emotions. So I heard this voice in my head, get on this floor. I went on the floor. I started doing these breathing exercises, like deep belly breathing. And then only after like 4 or 5 seconds, like it was so quick. Don't know if you've heard of what they talk about in like the DMT experience, where like you
Mhm.
just kind of go through this tunnel and you break through. And that's exactly what happened. Like in a in a void of blackness, of nothingness, and my consciousness just detached and I just left my body. But the funny thing was, I kept breathing. I was still connected to this deep breath, which was really weird because like I didn't have a body in this space. You know, my consciousness was just floating through the void, and I had this deep connection to my breath still. So I don't know how that is, but anyway, I saw a orb or a spherical ball of light in the distance, and it had like this magnetic pull that was like bringing me toward it. And the the more I went into this breathing, this deep breathing, the more it drew me in and the more familiar it seemed. It had this feminine energy and it got closer and closer and closer. The ball got closer. And then how much for how much I took breathing for granted. And then yeah, boom. It just kind of exploded. And then this beam of light basically went straight through my chest, straight through my heart. Even though I didn't have a body in this space, it just went right in there. And what felt like completely exploded my heart open. And in this moment, it revealed this ball of feminine loving energy revealed itself as my mother, who had, died 7 years before this happened. Um, and as I was breathing, I I kind of, sorry, I forgot to mention when I was breathing into this, I had these flash memories of my mother struggling to breathe because she had multiple sclerosis. And for years, for about 5 or 6 years before she died, she had a very hard time breathing. She wasn't able to eat or drink. So she had to be fed through a tube. And anytime she would like swallow her saliva, she would choke and and I had to come in and tell her, just breathe, just breathe, just breathe. So I was always trying to get her to remember how to breathe. And then these flash images while I was breathing just came into my head of her struggling to breathe and then through the heart. And then there was my mum fully alive, present, healthy, beautiful, like just emanating this absolute golden light. And she basically, in that moment where she pierced through my heart, now this is sounding crazy to anyone out there who haven't had these type of experiences. So forgive me and stay with me. But as that happened, like the surrounding void that was in the peripheral vision was like there was lots of negative energies and spirits coming at me. Like they just wanted to get toward me, and I was like, but my mum was like this stable force in the middle of it all, and
Mm,
she was like effortlessly keeping them all away. It was like she didn't even look at them. You know what I mean? It was just like
yeah.
they were trying to get at her, but she was trying to tell me that you're operating from the wrong energy center.
Mm,
Look how simple it can be to fend off these bad demonic forces, for lack of a better word, when you just operate from love. She was just like, just stay here,
yeah. Yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
And she was just demonstrating it in front of me how effortless it was to go through life if you operate from that energy center. And of course, she didn't communicate this in words. It was all in the spiritual community. People say a lot about like the speed of thought rather than the speed of sound. You get these downloads just boom straight into your head. full paragraphs in an instant, and that's kind of what it felt like. I didn't really hear words, but it was just like the message was communicated right there, like so quickly, and it was yeah. She basically also communicated to me that I was missing the mark, that I don't have to force things, and that if you just go with your own innate, authentic love that is in the core of all of your spirit, you can, all of this stuff you're trying to like manually control, like with your thinking, logical brain, like you can just effortlessly fend off. And if you remain in this center, you will like life can be so much joyous and more so much more innocent. So this experience lasted probably like I think 10 minutes, but like everything everyone says in the psychedelic space, it was an eternity. I felt like I was locked in, like the closest hug you could possibly imagine, like
Oh,
tighter than anything, you know. I was just there with her, and it just went on for as long as I can remember. And I had this this ridiculous bellowing cry, this long, sticky, slow motion cry that was like, it's like I must have seemed completely insane if anybody else was in the house. Thank God I was alone, you know.
yeah.
But that was, yeah, so that broke me out of the Christian paradigm of the framework of thinking that, you know, Jesus is all there is. And it made me redirect my path onto more of a higher self modality, and the fact that that there isn't just one spirit that we can commune with. Like, you know, also it's worth saying that, apologies that I'm rambling and you haven't spoken in a while, but I think that it's worth saying I I'm fully aware that this could just be me talking to or communing with like a fragment of a memory that was existed in my brain of my mum, and it wasn't really like the spirit of her, let's say, coming in. Like the skeptic will say that, but this experience was so much realer than anything I've ever had that it just forced me to be like, yeah, you can deconstruct this and rationalize this to the day you die, but you can't get away from the feeling that you were there with your mum, like you were there,
Yeah,
you know.
absolutely.
So, so that's my little.
Because why would she not come visit her son, right? Even though she's not in this realm anymore. Why would she not come and tell you that much needed information and give you that, insight, like you said, it was a vision
Mm.
of this really short time, but it made such a huge impact on your life.
Through the